my
changes
family,
all the time.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Jessica.
All right, Jessica. So, what was your process to create these pieces? Do you use Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe programs to create these pieces?
They were, for lack of a better term, double exposures, but done in Photoshop.
Okay,
so I took
Photoshop.
2 images and layered them in Photoshop, not, in the camera.
Okay, cool. And so reference and scenery, very important in photography. Who do you use as your subject matter regularly? Do you use like a photo services or like images off the internet, or do you buy stock images, or how do you pick and go about choosing your reference in general?
Gosh, I don't know if I understand that question.
So like you see how you have like all these people and places in your pieces?
Yeah.
So like how do you go about finding those individuals? Are
Well,
they friends, family?
Yeah. So when we started, when we were chosen, I think that I spent a good long time thinking about. I wanted to make pictures that everyone would relate to, and although that idea was forefront in my mind, it made me very unhappy. And once I set that aside and decided that I wanted to tell my own story of what I've seen here, then that felt right. And so I didn't know exactly how I was going to do that. Actually, something Kory said, I pick up on messages all around. Something that Kory said was, Ginny said, when we first met, well, what do you shoot? And Kory answered for me, even though we met about 5 minutes earlier. And Kory said, people. She shoots people. And so I was like, what am I even thinking about? I have to do people, because I was thinking about, at first I was thinking about putting together things commenting on the development of our area, empty spaces versus the construction going on, like the bridge. And then when Kory said that, I realized that's really my happy place. And so the idea developed by just putting myself out into the community, going out and shooting the areas that I saw every day, the events that came to our community during the year. And then the children and the one adult in the image are all people that I know personally, and whose story inspired me or has affected me in my definition of this area. I am the newest to the area out of all of us. I had only lived in the area for about, I think, less than 4 years when we started. And so my perspective was of an outsider. And so going out to the community, meeting these people, learning how they interacted with Murfreesboro in Rutherford County, and then going to these events, it just kind of naturally formed that, this person needs to go with this event, this person needs to go with this monument.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Awesome. So that was going to be a question for later, whether or not some of these images are put together, preemptively, or if they just came about in the editing process, so does that make sense?
Yes, no.
Are they all put together specifically?
Some of them were specific, and some of them were after the fact. Some of them were images that I took separately, and then put together without the intention of them going together when they were shot. Mm-hmm. But some of them were actually shot to go together. Like I knew I wanted a picture of that housing development with that person. And so that was a specific capture to go.
How about the unity piece? Was that preemptive?
So the pictures, the titles of them are interchangeable. They're very generic, and they're sort of interchangeable because they do kind of have an image that you could go with, but you could really rotate them around, and they would work out. So if you mean the young girl with the Confederate piece, yes, that was intentionally put together, and probably the image that concerned me the most to put together, to be honest.
Yeah, why is that?
I was afraid of the reaction.
Yeah.
I guess the reaction. It was a very the year that we were laureates was a very sensitive time for talking about Confederate monuments and symbols in the community.
I think the titles are really powerful. I thought they were powerful from the moment I saw them, and the fact that I know that they're now interchangeable is that much more of a conceptual, success in my opinion. Like the fact that you have question marks at the end of each title is a conversation starter in and of itself.
The titles were really hard. I hate titles. I do, because I think that they bias the viewer a lot of times. So if I could have left them all untitled, I probably would have.
Wow.
But
So was leaving the backgrounds white, was that a conceptual decision, in that you mentioned in your statement that so many of these issues are unresolved? Does that mean that the pieces themselves are somewhat unresolved?
yeah, yes, it's a combination of them being unfinished, but also on a very much more generic level. I wanted them to be a series that would be identified as a series. So I wanted them to have a uniform appearance, the children facing the same direction, and the white backgrounds.
Cool.
So.
Speaking of series, your work that I saw doesn't look like the double exposure. Like, it seems like the double exposure technique that you chose to do here is a navigation away from your original style.
Yes.
So why did you choose, what in your mind was like, I'm going to do the double exposure thing for this?
I thought that it would be a better communication tool for what I was trying to get across, or for the question I was trying to ask. I thought that it would put more into the images, and it was a technique. I love Photoshop. I really enjoy Photoshop. Some photographers hate Photoshop, and I love it. So it's something that I really enjoyed doing. The pieses were something I really enjoyed creating, but I thought the double exposure would just be a bigger story than a single image.
Cool. They came out great.
Thank you.
And I love that it's a navigation away from what you typically do. Very cool. And I love Photoshop too. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Last question for you. If you had an unlimited amount of financial backing, what kind of photo project would you pursue?
Wow.
Isn't that a fun one?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I've entertained that idea, because, it's just one of those things like, don't even think about that. Don't even.
Like, there's this photographer who, and the reason I asked that question is because there's a photographer, I forget her name, but she sets up these elaborate scenes, like in a warehouse, and she recreates the beach in the warehouse with all these extras. And in my mind, I think, like, man, that must be a lot of heads that you have to pay in order to take a photo. You know what I mean? And to me, I've always been very attracted to like the scenery, like constructed backdrop photography, where you can like see that every aspect of the photo is controlled. So that's why that's one of the reasons I asked.
It's a funny question for me, just because I am always in our photo group and to photo students, I'm always like, you don't need a lot of money. You can have a cheap camera. Cam lights from Lowe's, So I'm actually kind of the queen of you don't need a lot to make great images. The first thing that comes to my head, and I don't know, and this is just because of where I am. I'm a mom, and my kids have long been my inspiration, and so I'm working on a project right now, kind of about the development of our identity as a young woman. And I think that if you gave me tons of money, I might travel to see that in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world. I think that's probably what I would do with that today.
Yeah, rock and roll. Thank you all three for indulging me.
Thank you, Tony.
Does anybody have